must stop making these backing tracks that you can just jam over endlessly for hours and hours at a time, because frankly I don't know when to stop. Hi guys, how you doing? Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive GI Plus. It's Monday. We're doing the thing that we do on Mondays, which is hang out and talk about the guitar. Today I once again have my acoustic guitar with me because we're continuing our series of lessons brought to you by our good friends at Elixir Strings on the subject of chords and arpeggios that are lurking below the surface of the scales that you already know. Now, this was brought to you by popular demand because not only did you guys ask for this, because, you know, we love kind of canvassing opinion from our regular cadre of streamers, but this was also something specifically requested by the good folks over at Elixir because you enjoyed the first one of these so much, they wanted some more. So we got the acoustic guitar back. That seemed to work really, really well as a teaching tool last week. So we're going to do one more acoustic session on the same subject as I promised you guys last week. But hey, if you're sat going, this is my first time here, what on earth are you talking about? Well, first of all, let me take this opportunity to welcome you on board. This is the thing that we do every Monday. We hang out, we talk about the guitar live on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed already, drop us a sub below. We'd love to hear from you. Also, drop us a comment if you are watching for the first time. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know which guitar you have with you today. If you have one of your electric guitars, that's totally okay too, right? Don't worry, this stuff is universal. It doesn't necessarily apply to just guitars with or without holes in them. Anyway, that was an accidental Alan Partridge moment, but that's totally fine. I do quite a few of them, as I'm sure you guys will discover. Anyway, listen, if you're not a new viewer, if you're one of our returning viewers, I'd like to welcome you back on board. Hey, listen, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for tuning in. A couple of ways you can help us keep the lights on, metaphorically and literally. You can go and check out our friends at Elixir Strings. Let me try and point to that on camera. That's quite difficult to do. This way. There we go. Kaboom. Elixir Strings logo right there. You can go there. You can check out those guys on social. They've got a bunch of great content. They also have some really cool educational content that's available too. I would encourage you to check that out. Also, you can go to this URL here. This is guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI Plus. Says so up here. GI Plus is the lesson platform from Guitar Interactive Magazine where you can go and get lessons from the likes of myself, Tom Quayle, Giorgio Cerci, Michael Caswell, Minelli Jamal, Don Alder, Andy James, Andy Wood, who else do we have? Rick Graham, Sam Bell, of course, the legendary Sam Bell, who we're hopefully getting back on the stream sometime in the not too distant future. Also, you can give us a thumbs up on whatever platform you happen to be watching on, and you can drop us a comment down below because we love your comments. They do help the algorithm a lot, but more importantly, if you've got questions, drop them down below because we're going to be answering your questions later on in this session. I'm going to make sure I leave plenty time because we left a load of time last week and it worked out really well. We got some very, very good question and answer stuff done, which I always like to do. But before we do that, let's take a minute and check in with our streamers and see how everyone's getting on. So who do we have? Let's see. Dropping in with Response Audio. Response Audio first through the door by a good margin. It says, yay, happy Monday. Happy Monday to you too, man. I do like me a bit Monday. Here we go. PJ says, hi, Nick, everyone. I found a new love for my acoustic. You know what it is? I have too, man. Like, I'm really feeling this guitar at the minute. This is a Cort OC Flow, and for my money, it's one of the absolute best three-figure acoustic guitars that you can buy. I just think it's absolutely fabulous. It plays really, really well. It doesn't play like an electric, crucially, but it does have some electric type features, like very tall frets, a very flat fretboard, and quite a slim asymmetrical neck. All of these things I love, and you'll struggle to find them on a very good acoustic guitar unless you get into that like Martin SC kind of money. Now, those guitars are next level, but they're also next level in terms of price. I played one at NAMM that was like 6K, and I wanted it. I wanted it so bad, but my wallet said no. Chris Bridges says, hi PJ, what acoustic do you play? Chris, I want to know what acoustic you play too. It's a Takamine, but I also have Kevin Cronin's Ovation. That's pretty cool. Like that a lot. Very, very cool indeed. Marcin is in the house. Hi Marcin, it's good to have you back on board. Who else do we have? Oh yeah, Marcin's prepping for tomorrow's rehearsal. Marcin's joined a band. The band is very exciting. Looking forward to hearing some stuff from you guys. Make sure you film some gigs, upload them to the Guitar Interactive live stream hub, which you'll find on Facebook, the private Facebook group. But you know, drop us a join request. We'll let you in. You can share all your good stuff about guitar playing. We also have a call from our head of all things, literally all things, our friend Jonathan in head office. Says, good evening, everyone. How's this week's practice gone? I want to know that too, which is why I brought this up. So let me know in the comments how your practicing this week's gone. We got some real great stuff done last week. Also need to take a quick second and apologize to you guys because I'm going to be coughing over the course of this session because still got that kind of cold hay fever thing going on. I feel a lot better this week than I did last week, but I am going to cough. I'll do one right now. I'm going to mute the guitar. Have to actually mute the guitar for this too because it's got a microphone in it, so you actually hear me cough, which is kind of crazy, but never mind. Cracker Tom is in the house. Hi everyone, greets from Inverness this time. Afraid I can't catch the live stream, and we'll watch it later. Last week's stuff was great, and I can't wait to see what's to come. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. I feel like last week's went really well. Thoroughly enjoyed what we went over, but there was more, and we didn't have enough time to go over it, but luckily we have a two-parter, and today is the second part. Also, Inverness is very lovely, especially in the sunshine. So let's just quickly step forward a little bit. Let's see who else is in the house. Larry Warren is here. Larry, it's good to have you, one of our regular streamers. Timothy Appling is here. Timothy, it's good to see you. Good afternoon, Nick and fellow guitarists. We're talking about some finger independence patterns. I'll maybe give you guys a little bit of that too. Also, PJ's got a quick comment here saying, let me just quickly find it. It's a very, very cool and very fun comment about his practice. Let's see. I'll pull it up later if I can find it. But yeah, compliments from the wife, which is always nice. We like a bit of that. Anyway, who else do we have in the house? Let's see. Zane Nass says, greetings, Nick, and everyone. Hope you're having an awesome day from England. Fellow countryman, Zane, it's good to have you on board. Thank you so much for joining us. Kim is in the house. Kim, it's good to see you. Kim may be watching from somewhere sunny. You never can tell. To be honest, though, south of England's probably pretty sunny too. So anyway, Cowcat is in the house. Hi, boys. I practice triads from a soloist point of view, making licks connect to one grip to another as chords change. As obviously it seems it's a very long process with multiple options to try. I'm going to explore that a little bit later on, man. We're going to start that up. We'll come to that in our Q&A session. David Yates is here. David, it's good to see you. Hope those hands are feeling good, man. I am, again, just very, very pleased to hear that you're on the consistent road to recovery. We love a bit of that. Fog Hornish is in the house. Good to see you. Mike Seedorf is here. Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for coming back on board. Mark Crandall is here. Hey, Nick. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Ready to absorb some more guitar knowledge from Professor Nick. Hey, thanks, man. I definitely can't claim the title of professor, but, you know, I do profess occasionally. And I have taught in some universities, but that doesn't make me a professor, unfortunately. But, hey, I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Frank is here. Good to see you, Frank. Steve McD is here. Rory Lisbon is here, who also is asking me to ditch the pick. You don't want to hear that, man. Let me tell you. You don't want to hear that. Maybe I will, but not for some solo stuff. Daryl Queen is here. Daryl, it is great to see you, man. Love to have you. Steve McD is going to tune in next week, Steve. Hopefully we'll see you live next week, but don't forget you can catch this on the replay. Mike Seedoff says, Larry Carlton in the house. That is a high order of compliment. Very much not Larry Carlton in terms of my fusion chops, but I'm having a go. So, you know, I don't know why I decided after a week of not playing while I finalized the mixes on my album, why I decided to throw some fusion changes on an acoustic, but hey, who knows? It's all good. Marcin is in the house. Marcin's playing his clean channel as PRS. Those clean settings are pretty good, man. Do you have the 5-way? I can't remember. If you have the 5-way rotary, the positions 2, 3, and 4 are absolutely fantastic for clean sounds. Just absolutely wonderful. Also, we have Sacred Godslayer says here, listen to the car while I'm getting back. Listen to the stream in the car while I'm getting back home. Very cool. Hey, man, keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel. Who else do we have? Timothy Appling is here. Got my electric next to me just in case I want to change out. Yeah, man, this is applicable to both styles of guitar. Fear not. Who else do we have? Let's just very quickly tune in with some new and old friends. James Fair is in the house. James, good to see you. Mustache Metal is here. Hi, Nick, hi, everyone. PRS single cut plugged in here. I'd love a single cut. I feel like I need one of them. That's pretty cool. Mal Riley says here, Vauxhall Carlton says Guitar Interactive Magazine. I was going to say Carlton Banks, But, you know, so who is your favourite, Carlton? Who is the best lord? The rings, the dance. I can't remember the other one. Alan Partridge. Stuck in my head now. 5-row rotary switch. It is, man, says Marcin. Well, dude, those in-between positions, magic. If it's an old one, it might have loosened off. This is Marcin's new PRS, by the way. If it's an older one, it may have loosened off enough to the point where you can do those, like, immediate, like, rolling kind of switches. So anyway, listen, let's get stuck into the meat of today's session. I want to take a quick second, once again, to shout out today's sponsors at Elixir Strings, who've been kind enough to provide the strings for this guitar. They've actually sent me a bunch of sets, but I've been lazy and haven't changed them because, like, we put this on over a month ago. We put these strings on when it was time to do the first Elixir acoustic stream that we did for this summer, and they still feel great. And I've been playing this guitar loads. I'm actually playing it on a run of shows, and sounds fantastic. So yeah, they make some good strings. Last one, Hank Staines in the house. Hank, it's great to see you. Sorry it's raining cats and dogs in France, but you do get to go to France, which is lovely. It's a great country. So anyway, listen, let's get stuck in. Now, last week, a quick refresher on what we came across last week. We were playing along with our Fleetwood Mac style backing track. Remember, all the backing tracks we cover in these streams are available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel. If you're not subbed to us, please do so, because you get all the backing tracks too. They're also available on GI Plus, where you can watch them ad-free if you want, and they're also free. You don't have to be a subscriber for that, by the way. Even if you're not a subscriber, you're not a paid member of GI Plus, you can still watch the backing tracks free of charge with no ads, just because we'd like to have you over there. So anyway, last week we discussed the idea, and we'll be very brief about this, we've got much more we need to discuss, but we discussed the idea of taking a pentatonic scale extrapolating chords from our pentatonic scale. So we talked about the idea that we can easily get, in our A minor pentatonic, we can easily get an A power chord, a D power chord. Oh, that's a little out of tune. Let me just mute my guitar and I'll tune that real quick. I think that is all the pseudo shred that we've been doing. That should be a little better. We can easily get a G power chord and a C power chord. Incidentally, those power chords form I don't know how many classic rock songs, right? But we discussed power chords. We also discussed the idea that we can get a whole bunch of triads from our pentatonic scale by using some, let's call them pattern-based extractions. And the way we might think about this, we might think about the pentatonic scale as having a low note and a high note on each string in each position. And if we simply assign the idea of playing some combination of high note, high note, let's say, or low note, high note, which would mean the lower of the two notes on the E string, the higher of the two notes on the A string, higher of the two notes on the D string, that gives us a power chord. If we flip that, play the higher note on the E string, and the lower note on the next two strings, gives us this lovely sus2 triad, an inverted major triad there, a straight up minor triad here, sus2 triad here. And we talked about the idea of taking these triads and interweaving them with our traditional pentatonic solo lines to get some really interesting results. Now let me know very quickly, by the way, if this backing track is at the right volume, because got my guitar sound checked against that Fusion track, but I think this one may be a little bit louder. So if you can't hear the guitar, do let me know. Or if you can't hear the track, let me know too. But what that might look like would be something like this. Arpeggios that we've taken out of our pentatonic scale. I'm just going to retune very quickly. I've got a snark air on the headstock, and apparently, for whatever reason, since I've been playing this guitar, it's gone out of tune. But that's okay. Had it all tuned and lovely, ready to go in the intro, but now it's a little bit out, but that's fine. I also don't have a tuner pedal rigged up, so just going to mute at this end. That's fine. Cool. Nice. Cowcat says volume okay. Pleased to hear it. Now, last week we did all that stuff with pentatonic scales. This week we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to go searching for some arpeggios and chords lurking within our major scale. Backing a bit too loud to Hank Staines, no problem. I'm going to knock that down a little bit. I'd rather you guys heard the ideas we're discussing rather than the lovely backing track, which you can go and check out at your leisure. Great fun track to play over though. So I'm going to knock that down a little bit, but keep me right. You know, if you want a bit more track, you want a bit less track, just let me know in the comments. Happy to oblige. Now, anyway, we're going to discuss, like I say, lurking arpeggios hidden within a major scale or a 7-note scale. In this instance, pardon me, did warn you I was going to cough. That snuck up on me though. In this instance, what we can do is we can take A minor as our basis, because I don't know about you, maybe this is something you can enlighten me on, but I feel like most of the guitar players I talk about tend to think about minor, Aeolian in particular, as the default scale, and we tend to think of major as the relative version of it. This is neither right nor wrong. Let's just say it's just a perspective, and we've talked about that a lot before. But for argument's sake, let's do a little bit of stuff on an A minor shape that we can play together. If we have an A minor pentatonic shape, which is based around this, I'll show you that one more time, just so everybody can play. We can get, let's see, we can have on our low string, we can have 5, 8, then we can have 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. Dead easy, right? Now, taking that same top end of the scale, we could convert that into this. We could play 8, 7, 5 on a high E string. On our next string, we could play 8, 6, 5. Then we could play 7, 5, 4 on the next string, which gives us this. That's a good place to begin. But if we wanted to go a little bit further, we can explore it in a few different places. Now, what we're going to do for this example is we're going to play 7, 5, and 3 on the next couple of strings. Just to get our ducks in a row, make sure we're all playing the same thing. Let's just go over that scale one string at a time. So we're going to start with 8, 7, 5. And we're just going to loop it like this until we feel happy. Dead easy. Let's play it together just to make sure we've got it under our fingers. Okay, let's go to the next string, 8, 6, 5. And if you already know this scale shape, feel free just to shred up and down while we're going over this. We're not going to take very long. Next string is going to be 7, 5, 4. 7, 5, 4. Hopefully we're feeling pretty good. Next string is 7, 5, 3. Now, you're free to play this with whatever fingers you like. I'm going to play it with fingers 4, 2, 1. Same frets on the next string. Doesn't take much learning. Same frets on the next string. And then, of course, we have our A there that we can finish on, which I insist on doing Preston Reed style for no reason. So we have our scale anyway. Now, we have within our scale 7 notes that we can choose from before we start to get back to the same note up 1 octave. Allow me to demonstrate. What we get here is if we start on this A note, we have access to a G, that's 1 below, but really this is where the scale starts. This is one of those things that guitar players do tend to get a bit stumped by, is that the root note of the scale is not always the lowest note that's in the position. Sometimes we want to go below. Sometimes we want this. That sounds nice, but this is still the home. So depending upon the context, you could think about this as a G mixed Lydian scale, but it's not. In this instance, it's an A minor scale because we're playing over an A minor backing track. Anyway, waffle aside, starting here with finger number 2 on our A note, we get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and by the time we're here, we're back to A. So we have 7 notes that we can pick from. Now, we know, because we've played scales, we've improvised with scales before, easy for me to say, that any one of these notes is fair game over any one of the chords in our A minor backing track. Now, not all of them are going to sound maybe the way you want them to sound, but they're all fair game. It doesn't mean they're bad, it just means it might not be the choice that you're after. Let me present some examples to this. So, for example, if I were to play, I don't know, let's say I'm going to play this F note. over the A minor chord, which is the first chord of the bunch. Feels quite tense. Feels like it wants to go somewhere, but it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds like we've started to say something. Same with this B note here, there's a certain tension to it. They all sound pretty good. It's not like this, or this, or this. These all sound a little bit kind of, like we've made a glaring error. Now, you don't necessarily have to think about those notes as bad. We can come to the chromatic thing a little bit later on. Sometimes chromatics are just a case of lacking a little bit of confidence. And if you play them with enough conviction, they can be absolutely fantastic. But for the time being, we're working on playing just our A minor scale. Now, the reason I bring this up, the reason I say that any note is fair game over any chord is because this has some important implications going forward. So if we work on the assumption that yes, some notes will sound more rested than others, but ultimately any one of the notes from our A minor scale is going to work to a greater or lesser degree over any one of the chords from our A minor backing track, then we can also extrapolate from there that any arpeggio constructed of notes from the A minor chord, from the A minor scale rather, is also fair game. Now, this is something that, again, guitar players tend to struggle with, because we hear arpeggios and we think that we immediately have to match the arpeggio to the chord that we're playing. It's actually not necessarily true. We talked about this a little bit in our Richie Kotzen sessions that we did a few weeks ago, and they were really good fun. We talked about the idea of extrapolating and laying over chord changes. Here's an interesting one, by the way. A quick comment from Hank Staines that I want to address. It's a very good comment. It says, if you're playing the changes, which I think is what you're saying, would you stay with a verse of root targets and then a verse of third targets and then the fifth targets, or do you mix it up? I mix it up as a rule of thumb. The reason for this is I guess you could use that approach, but I wouldn't necessarily use that over every chord. You could use, for example, a verse of landing the end of your bigger, like, let's call it a macro phrase, your bigger idea of landing that on a root, for example. But I would tend to mix it up from chord to chord, personally, when it comes to playing over changes. But in this instance, we're not really thinking about playing over changes. We're thinking about just playing over an A minor backing track. So anyway, with that in mind, what we tend to think of, our two chords in this backing track, by the way, are A minor and F. And what we might think of when we tend to play arpeggios, we tend to think about this idea of having to play an A minor arpeggio over the A and having to play an F arpeggio over the F. Because it sounds good. It sounds like it matches. It sounds like it matches what we're playing. We're matching what we're playing to the chords, and that can be fun. But realistically, we don't have to stop there. What we can start to do is we can start to extrapolate some chord shapes from this, and we can start to layer any of them in pretty much however we want. And what you'll start to find when you go a bit deeper with this, which we're going to do in this session, is there's basically two for every chord. There is a family of chords that are kind of on, and there's a family of chords from the scale that are off, if that makes sense. But we're going to get to that, right? It will make sense over the course of this stream, let me tell you, promise. Anyway, so let's first of all establish some chords that we can build from each one of our scale notes. So we've got our A minor scale, which, just a quick reminder, was this. What we can do is, if we would start here with finger number 2 on our A note, and then we play one, miss one, play one, miss one, play one, we get a triad arpeggio. A triad arpeggio in this case is A minor. So we're starting in A, miss the B, play C, miss the D, play E, we get that. So A minor arpeggios, wherever we know how to play an A minor arpeggio, we know that's fair game. So the next one we might do is we might do a B. Now this one's going to be a little bit off because B happens to be a diminished triad in the key of A minor, which is fine, just a little bit edgy sounding. So what we get is this. We get B, miss the C, play the D, miss the E, play the F. So B diminished, anywhere we know how to play a B diminished, we can throw that in, so we might play it here. Diminished seventh there, which is something that we can talk about. That's hinting at melodic minor, but that's another story. We're going to get away from the diminished one because we have got a lot of ground to cover on this. So next up we might get C. If we play over C, we get a C major arpeggio. How do I know? Well, because we play one, miss one, play one, miss one, play one, away we go. Let me just tell you what we get. So we have A minor, B diminished, we can kind of ignore that, C major, D minor, E minor. Even though we wouldn't normally play an E minor chord, we'd normally play it as a dominant chord to give us some tension on the resolution. We can play an E minor arpeggio within our A minor and have it sound really good. F is major, G is major. Now, what I could do is I could match this entirely to the chord changes, or I could just play them pretty much willy-nilly. So let's do some experiments. Let's try playing an E minor arpeggio over our A minor. That sounded really good. Let's try a C arpeggio over our F. So F is coming up next. We might get this. Sounds pretty good. What about D minor over F? Also sounds fantastic. The reason I'm demonstrating this is because what I want to do here is I want to legitimize the idea of finding chords within your scale shape, not necessarily by looking for notes or looking for particular arpeggios that you know, but by using a shape-based approach, which is a little like what we did with our pentatonic thing. So let's go digging with that. The reason I've brought all that up, by the way, is just to show you, look, these all work. Right, so whatever arpeggios you can deduce, whatever chords you can deduce from your A minor scale, you can play them. So here comes the fun part, right? This is where we start to get into just kind of like coming up with some interesting, cool new ideas for this. So if we take the idea of this scale once again, where we had 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8, on each one of these strings, we have a low note, a middle note, and a high note. There's our low note, there's our middle note, there's our high note. When I'm playing sequence-based shreddy stuff, I tend to think in these terms. I tend to think about my sequences as things like high, middle, low, middle, high, middle, low, middle, high, middle, etc. Or you might get high, low, middle, high, middle, low, which is the ing-based sequence. Although when we do it ascending, it's kind of more of a Richie Kotzen thing, but even still, it's a very, very common sequence. Now, we're going to use this line of thinking about taking the shapes that we know and playing some combination of high, low, and middle on 3 adjacent strings to come up with some arpeggios. So let's start here. Let's start with a fairly obvious one. Let's do low on one string, middle on the next string, then high on the next string. What do we get here? Well, the first thing we get is we get a G sus2 chord, or an add 9 power chord. I've heard it referred to before. Either way, it's the Andy Summers shape that we all hate from when we have to play Every Breath You Take, because the singer wants to play it and it's somebody's wedding and you're going, it's not a romantic song, it's a creepy song. And you go, shush, it's somebody's wedding, don't be mean. Once I had to play this in the key of key of A flat for some horns to join in, because horns like to play in weird keys. I was 16 and nearly died playing this. Not prepared for that with my my blues scale noodlings. I'm pretty sure I got a little bout of tendonitis from it, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, so what we have is we have this. Now, where's this come from? Well, it's come from playing the low note on our first string of our scale, the middle note from the second string of our scale, high note from the next note of our scale. Does it work? Well, let's set it across our backing track, find out. Yep, sounds pretty good to me. What about if we take the same idea of low note, middle note, high note, and then we play that on every combination of 3 strings. Well, what are we going to get on the next string? We get 3 on the A string, 5 on the D string, 7 on the G string. What about if we just play those 2 combinations and intersperse those with our regular minor scale and even minor pentatonic type playing? Well, we might get something like this. That sounds pretty nice. We've gone a long way from this. Did we worry about what chords we were playing? Not particularly. We just assumed, because we're right to assume so, that the shape will guide us. The intervals we've chosen are going to work, and therefore any intervals from within this scale are going to work too. Let's go a little step further with this. What about if we played low, middle, high on our next grouping of strings up? I've skipped one there, so let's start on the D string. This is going to be a bit of a stretch, so we might get low, middle, and high. That sounds really nice. Next grouping of strings, low, middle, high. That sounds pretty good to me, right? I am into that. Now, this is a case of taking the same thing that we discussed last week, which is literally just taking a shape-based approach to weaving through these scale shapes and picking some arpeggios out. So let's go a little step further with this. We'll do some more possibilities, and then we'll start jamming together, because I like the jams that we do together. So what we may do next is we might take the same idea, but we may give ourselves 2 notes on a given string. So what I might do is I might do something that goes low, middle, high, and then the low note on the same string that I've just finished on. So in this case, it would be lowest note on E, middle note on A, highest note, and then lowest note on D. Frets-wise, we get 3, 5, 7, 3. Same thing here, accommodating for our scale shape, low, middle, high, low. Same thing here, low, middle, high, low, low, middle, high, low. Now, if we don't like that, we can easily play this, which is low, low, high, low. It actually doesn't matter. You can pick whichever ones you want, but this is a fun place to begin. So let's actually do that as a bit of a lick. Now, hopefully you're warmed up, because there's some stretches involved here. If you feel like the stretches are a little bit aggressive, don't be afraid to move this up 12 frets if you're playing electric guitar. If that feels a little bit uncomfortable, you can start down here. That's going to work just fine too. So what do we get? We get low, middle, high, and then low also on the D string. So E3, A5, D7, D3. Next one is going to be 3 on the A string, 5 on the G string, 5 on the D string, 7 on the G string, 4 on the G string. What about this next one? Well, we have 3, 5, 8, 5, D string, G string, B string, E string. And here, same thing, 4, 6, 7, 8 rather, 4, 6, 8, 5. So we've got a lick. We can play this. Let me play it right. There we go. Very cool, right? Now that is a very, very interesting and very modern way to play this scale. But if we intersperse this idea with our existing scale of playing, we start to get some really cool and interesting results. So we might get this. I'm going to take a pass with the track, and then I'm going to throw the ball to you. You take a turn. We're in A minor. Feel free to be as A minor scalar or as A minor arpeggio-y as you like. You can drift between the two pretty much at your heart's content. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to show you some more ideas for this. Big long break in the track. So you take a turn here. Again, as arpeggio-ish or as scalar as you like. And feel free to blend the two. That's kind of where the magic is. Alright, I'm going to stop you there because you can practice over this track at your leisure. It's available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel, Fleetwood Mac style backing track, as if that wasn't obvious. So anyway, what we can do now is we can start to explore some more of these kind of arpeggio shapes, and we'll get into some of my favorites. So some of my favorite ways to do this is to have a bit of fun with basically just flipping the hand. So what I mean by that is if we have this same low, middle, high idea that we start with here, there's nothing stopping us from going low, middle, high, and then in descent we can play low, middle, high. See what that looks like. So we have 3, 5, 7 on E, A, D, and then 3, 5, 7 on D, A, E. Low, middle, high, low, middle, high. And we don't have to be super strict about it. We can play anything that feels kind of comfortable. So we may need to alter for that strange little fingering position that we have there. So if we find ourselves playing low, middle, high, low, low, high, or low, middle, high like that, that works. Or low, low, high, that works too. Actually, doesn't really matter. Are theoretically, at least, a 3-note arpeggio. They all work. So it actually doesn't really matter which ones you play. This is kind of at the root of where a lot of Frank Gambale's playing comes from, for example. Now, Frank is the kind of wizard who can justify this stuff on the fly, but you can busk this stuff and have it actually come off really, really well without thinking any more than, I'm going to play the high note, the low note, and the low note on my next 3 strings. So what we might get is we might get something like this. I know we've kind of gone off into the weeds a little bit here, but it's a cool idea. We're going to get something like this. That sounds fantastic, and it's just this. Literally just the A minor scale, Common Garden. Now, if you start to blend this with some scalar playing, you start to really get some magic. So that's where this kind of really kind of crystallizes. Yes, we can play it as some, you know, the hit button for arpeggios. That's fine, but we can also start to blend it with some phrasing ideas where we might get this. Don't forget, when you get lost in the weeds with this stuff, sometimes it's time to go, enough of that, back to the melody. Lovely compliment from Daryl Queen, says Michael Brecker approved sound. Man, you know what it is? This is where a lot of this kind of like inspired by horns thing comes from for guitar players. Now, the kind of lines that we tend to play, and these kind of lines, incidentally, for all horns tend to play really gorgeous, deep, wonderful lines that are like this in style, and we sit at their feet when it comes to this stuff. These kind of lines are actually more readily accessible on a guitar than they are on a horn. I would suggest, because of the grid style layout of the guitar, if anybody's ever played in fourths, I couldn't make sense of it apart from when I was doing this stuff. And then you go, oh God, yeah, that makes so much sense in fourths. So it's why guys like Alex Hutchings and Tom Quayle and all these, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else who's a notable fourths player, but all these guys that tune to fourths, that's why they're able to pull these lines off with such aplomb, and also the fact that they're incredibly gifted and well-practiced and diligent, hard-working players. But anyway, that is a little look at how we might do this from a scaler perspective. But you know what it is. Here we go, right? Great response from Response Audio. It says, along with playing arpeggio shapes as single note lines, I occasionally pick two notes at the same time and add a second voice from the triad shape to start thinking that way. Really good shout, man. You'll have seen me do something quite similar, I guess, where what I'll do is I'll just do the same thing, but I'll let the notes ring into each other. It works really great on acoustic. All I'm doing there he said, and then paused to do it some more. All I'm doing there is exactly the same thing that I've just talked about. Exactly the same thing, but allowing the notes to ring. It takes a little more practice, but basically the same thing. But what we can get from this is then we can get kind of an unlimited number of chords that are available to us by simply taking the same idea literally the same idea. I realize it doesn't seem that way, but I promise you the thought process is the same. I'm literally taking those ideas of, let's play the low note, the middle note, the high note. Let's reach for the high note here. Let's try the middle note. That's fun. What about the low note in this position? What about in the next position? That's nice. What am I doing in terms of actually the chord I'm playing? Couldn't tell you. I'll have to figure that out later. What I know is that it's a chord derived from the A minor scale, the Aeolian scale. And I know it's probably going to be okay. Let me play some chords over this, right? I'm going to make some concessions to this, and what I will do is I'll try and include some F notes over the F chord and try not to include them over the A chord, just because it sounds a little nicer. It's just experience speaking, I guess. But what we might get is we might get something like this. Ooh, I lost my own fingers. Again, got lost modally, but that's fine. I'm trying to reach for things. Maybe there. All sound, apart from the mistakes, all sound perfectly acceptable. Why? Because, guys, scales, chords, same thing. It's just a hand in Scrabble that we've talked about before. Hopefully that analogy flies. Now, when it's time to play over changes, we can do the same thing, but all we got to do is just change the group of notes that we're picking from. So I'm going to go back to that fusion style backing track that we played earlier. Chords here are all minor. So we have a minor 7. You seem to have lost the pick, says Hank Staines. Well, when playing chords on acoustic, time to get rid of the pick, I think. So anyway, let me go back to this. Chords here real quick are A minor 7, C minor 7, D minor 7, F minor 7. The way I like to think about them is I think about them as an A Dorian chord. Why Dorian? Because we assume Dorian if we're playing fusion, unless there is other information. just because it's one of them things. We assume it's we assume it's Dorian, and we have no information to confirm or deny. Let me just find this real quick. I appear to have lost the YouTube view. Here we go. So yeah, so A Dorian, C Dorian, D Dorian, F Dorian, and I'm going to see how good my fusion comping chops are. I'm not going to play anything crazy rhythmic or particularly jumpy roundy, but I'll just show you how this concept might fly. Stretch. Keep that note there. On and on we go. Fusion chords. Do I know what any of them are called? If I went back and figured it out, then yeah, but in the heat of the moment, nope. Just thinking about what notes are available to me in my scale and choosing some pretty much at random. They sound kind of fun. Now, there is more to this, but I think it's as much about developing an instinct for it as it is for developing a deep and what's the word? Fully featured knowledge of exactly what every chord shape is. And I think that comes with practice. By the way, very, very quick one for you guys. Just a bit of shameless self-promotion. For you guys that are aware, I also do a bit of stuff with a group of folks called Guitar Boot Camps. And this is something else that I do with Kim. And it's kind of a more in-depth, like day-long workshop. If you guys go to the Guitar Boot Camp's website, I have a practice boot camp coming up very soon. It's going to be in July. You can check that out. I'm not going to post links or anything. Just go to the Guitar Boot Camp's website. You'll find us. If you want to know a little bit more about practice and developing instinct, doing a boot camp on that. But that's another story for another day. So for the time being, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with that as a thought to dwell on. But let's take a quick look at how far we've come in terms of our ideas. What have we done? Well, we started with this. Which is fine. And then we went to this. From there, we went to this. Which took us to this. Which in turn took us to this. And on we go. July 1st, says PJ. Yes, indeed, it is going to be July 1st. But, you know, more information available on there. That's not what we're here to talk about. So if you want to go in there and check that out, hey, listen, you know where to go find it, right? Space is limited, etc., etc. So that's a little look at where we've been with this. It's been a lot of fun exploring this. We're going to be answering your questions in the next little segment. So if you've got a question, which I'm certain you will have, drop them down below. We're going to take our time over these. We'll make sure we get as many questions answered as we can. But for the time being, I want to take a quick second to show you this. If you want to get a little bit deeper into the whole modes thing, you want a little bit more of a foundational knowledge on that, maybe you should check out this course. This is a really great introduction to modes for the pentatonic guitar player. It's called Mastering Modes, Part 1. Had a load of guys experience some fantastic results with this. It's available in GI Plus, link down here. GI Plus subscribers get this included in their membership. This is Mastering Modes Part 1. When we come back, we're going to be answering your questions.
Modes. What are modes? How do I use them? When do I use them? Well, modes are one of the things that the pros use to add excitement and colour to their guitar parts, and there is no reason why you can't use them too. Now, for some reason, people, especially certain online guitar teachers, love to make modes seem complicated and scary, but I'm here to tell you they really, really aren't. And in fact, if you know the pentatonic scale, I can show you how to play modes with just 2 extra notes. In this course, I'll show you how to play careless sounding guitar solos using modes without any of the mystery. You'll learn how to play musical sounding solos all across the neck in any key, crucially without sounding like you're just running up and down scales. So, if you're ready to take this next step with me, click the link to find out more.
So there you go, guys. That's a look at Mastering Modes Part 1. I want to take a quick look at some very, very kind comments that have come up over the course of that. First of all, from my friend Hank Staines, who says, sounds great, and says, this isn't a lesson, but a chord masterclass. My fingers won't do what yours did. Thanks so much. I know this will help with my solos. It helped immeasurably with mine. Now, don't worry about I will absolutely take that compliment. Thank you so much. Mine usually don't do everything I expect them to do. It's kind of how it works. But now, what I will say is that I've spent a lot of time playing with this stuff, so it'll come. It's merely a question of just like plugging in the hours. Once you know what you're doing, you've got the fast track to becoming very good at this stuff, and then every once in a while I'll be able to sit down and go, yeah man, I can play some cool fusion changes, and wondrous things happen. It also works absolutely fantastically when you're playing these kind of chord voicings with well, there's a couple of ways you can do it, to be fair. You can do it with the like a really lovely big ambient sound and get some fantastic pad type tones going on. They work really well, especially if you've a swell, if you've got like a volume control, or you quick, or you have a volume pedal, or you're quick in your volume control. But you can also do them to construct like pop rock style lines, if that makes any sense. So if you have a chord progression, let's take a very common chord progression that might go something like this. We're in the key of D. So we've got D, G, B minor, and then A. What you can do is you can use the same approach and go, okay, D major. That last one didn't work. The edge Coldplay type thing. You can get that quite easily if that's something you want and you're playing. Sometimes it's kind of fun. It is a little played out. Very useful if you're a worship guitarist. That is for sure. I know from speaking with some of my friends who do that sort of thing. I don't really have that, but we have we have a little bit of that in the UK. It's not something that I've done any of, but I'm fascinated by the guitar playing because there's some really great sounds, really great ideas that come out of that school of playing. It's really useful for that, but sometimes it's fun just to play that kind of stadium type stuff in song, especially if you're playing live and you want to really kind of like lift the mood of an audience. There's something in that type of playing that is coded as a, like, I guess kind of coded as a let's all have a great time kind of thing in people's minds. Just seems to work really well. It's a lot of fun. It's also a fun way to fit in with another guitar player. If you've got a guitar player who's laying down the big goodness, you can decorate your chords with that sort of thing. Daryl Queen says, oh, any chance we can have a lesson on spread voice triads? Sure I can, but let me give you the very quick cliff notes in this. Spread voice triads are actually pretty simple. So what you would do is you would take a triad shape, and you would literally take the middle note and drop it by an octave. It's probably the easiest way to do it. So if we took this A major triad, we took the middle 3 notes, take this one, and then drop it by an octave, we get this. So I'm playing at a stadium. I'll definitely do that. That's hilarious. You know what it is? I actually played at a stadium once. I was in the bar, but even still, it's really good fun. Close to I've come to play in a stadium, let me tell you. Couple of arenas, which have been cool, but stadiums, nope. Anyway, it's above my pay grade. But Phil Short does, though. He plays some really big places. Anyway, so spread voice triads. Take the middle note, dump it by an octave. If you want to voice a melody with it, take the melody as the top note, and then find the appropriate triad that hangs off there, take the middle note, drop it by an octave. You might get something like this. This is a good bit of fun. You get... I'm going to have a pick for this. I need to do the muted thing. Let me try it again without a pick. That took a bit of figuring out. Loads of fun. Loads and loads of fun. Yes, we can do a big full lesson on that, I'm sure. That's a fun arrangement, though. Maybe I'll tab that one day. Mark Randall, Africa, indeed. Links Africa. It's kind of what it sounds like to me anyway. Listen, one more quick question. Just want to quickly touch on this. This one from Mark Randall again. It says, I read that Holsworth wanted to be a horn player and play his guitar as if he were playing a horn. I've absolutely read that too. Apparently, it was one of these things where it's like, I wanted a saxophone. Saxophones are expensive, so didn't get a saxophone, got a guitar instead, so guitar it is. Now, a lot of guitar players in that strange part of the 70s where we were kind of going a little bit over the whole blues thing. Eddie Van Halen hadn't dropped at this point, so we hadn't got the next level of like rock shred. A lot of these guitar players were drawing inspiration from horn players who were way ahead of the curve and had the likes of, let's say the likes of, we had Michael Brecker as an example, or like John Coltrane and Miles Davis, Wayne Shorter, all these great horn players to draw from. They had this tradition of beautiful lines that we sort of had in the guitar, but hadn't quite made it through into the distorted mainstream, let's say. So we had guys like John McLaughlin, Holdsworth, Al Di Meola, drawing inspiration from all of these other places. Now, what I would say is that it's a lot of fun to learn that stuff if that's something you want to do. But it's kind of enough just to take the mindset of a horn player to get somewhere in that vein, I think. So what I mean by that is to thread arpeggios in the way that horn players do. And this is a fun way to start to tap into that sound, but we can also take advantage of the grid nature of the guitar, because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Hank Stein says, just learn all your songs in B flat. Have I told you the guitar the Guitar Shop trick. This is a fun one. Last thing we'll say is the Guitar Shop trick. If you want to be heard in a guitar shop or in a place where people are playing guitar, here's what you do. You play some blues in A for a while. For a while, just to set the scene, and when you feel like you're ready to be heard, play a little louder and go to B flat. And watch people go, ooh, that's nice. Guaranteed this guitar is out of tune now. No, can you believe it? Still in tune. Elixir Strings, coming in clutch. Guys, this has been the second in a series of live streams. If you want to watch these as like a 2 1-hour or a 2-hour length masterclass, I guess, feel free to. They're available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel there for free. Go and watch them at your leisure. Take some ideas from them. It's not something that you can digest over the course of a 1-hour stream. This stuff is going to exist for a little while, so make sure you take the time to digest what we've been talking about in these lessons. I think you're really going to get some results from them. Once again, I want to take a quick second and shout out our friends at Elixir Strings, who've been kind enough not only to request these lessons, they've said, hey, listen, that lesson that you did for us was kind of cool and people liked it. You want to do some more? Yeah, we want to do some more. But they've also provided the strings that we're playing and several other packs that I was supposed to put on for each individual lesson, but I haven't needed to because these ones are still going strong. So there you go, guys. My name's Nick Jennison. This has been a stream brought to you by Elixir Strings on behalf of Guitar Interactive and GI+. I'm going to play a little bit more in this fusion thing, because it's a lot of fun. If you fancy more lessons like this, you can go to the URL that I am about to uncover, which is guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI+, where you can get more lessons on all manner of subjects. I will let you discover that at your leisure. If you're interested in the Guitar Bootcamps thing, you can check it out. I'll see you on July the 1st. For the time being, see you guys next week for more of the same. It's going to be electric guitars next week, by the way, so expect some notes, because I've not done any notey playing in a while. Let's do some of this. This backing track's also available on the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel, by the way. This is the Tom Quayle style backing track. You can check that out at your leisure. See you guys next week.
My name's Nick Jennison, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you GI+, the brand new lesson platform brought to you by Guitar Interactive. We've assembled a team of the best players and educators in the world to bring you exclusive lessons covering everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length exclusive country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from Fusion Maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Or perhaps you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 60 feature-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. You get all this along with exclusive live webinars, free backing tracks, competitions, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for GI Plus today.